Hello, my name is Carrie Morrow. This is my podcast, What the Heck Next? I started it last summer to bring attention to the completely collapsing Hollywood industry where I spent 40 years of my life producing movies and TV, many credits that you know. Look me up. Life is a way of changing our plans, the ones we never planned to change. And for those of you out there after 50, here we are wondering, now what the heck next for our life, for our career? We weren't ready to retire. And that's not a financial question. It's just a readiness question. And today we're going to talk about the lessons I learned in Hollywood and how I'm going to apply them to what the heck is going on in my life right now. So let's go. Welcome back to What the Heck Next, my podcast about what the heck next. For every opportunity in your life that you're looking at going, what happened to the opportunity? What happened to my plan? Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Whether your career ended or a relationship ended or whatever ended in your mind, you're staring at the wreckage of what you never planned to be staring at. I spent 40 years of my life producing in Hollywood, and I rose up. I actually rose in my life, in my career. I used to call myself the accidental producer because Hollywood used to be very different. Like opportunities would just present themselves, and how you took them or didn't take them sort of produced outcomes that you may have liked or didn't like. I was working at a bar and I got an opportunity to work on a movie. So, as my mother taught me, just say yes. I did. So, I ended up producing forever. I got my first producing credit in the early 90s, probably around 1991, and produced all the way up until, I don't know, right now I'm producing this, aren't I? I learned a lot of lessons in Hollywood. But one of the most important lessons I learned was chain of command. Who's in charge? And it wasn't necessarily the person that hired you. It could be on a movie or a TV show. There's so many executives, and I'm also an executive. So who do I have to go to when something's at question or I need verification or clarification? And certainly it depends on the subject. Does it have to do with the cast or the crew or a contract or the studio, the unions? All of that requires attention by a different executive. It could be the legal department if it's a studio. I didn't work in the independent world as they know it now, where people ran around scraping together, trying to get their money, and then they found distribution, and then they went to a film festival to try to raise more money or get the distribution. Hollywood wasn't like that when I started. It was very formatted and very predictable. I'd get a call when they already had the money. I never found myself in a situation with people going, well, we're trying to find the money, and if we do, maybe we will, and we'll call you. That is not the business that I spent my life in. But on the subject of chain of command, there was always somebody who could really untangle whatever the situation was. But let's start from where I sit, because I was a line producer. I've explained that I was in charge of the money given to me, and I mean all of it. Not like I could go to the mall with it. It was allocated for this particular production that lined up with a script and a budget and a schedule that all lined up. There was a completion bond insurance, which was a company that people, not necessarily studios, but like Village Roadshow, Legendary, or New Line mini studios would hire and pay, we'd pay a couple of $100,000 for them to ensure the completion of a movie. And by the way, sometimes the wheels did fall off. I worked for the completion bond company, Film Finances, back in the late 80s as what they called a bond rep. I would monitor these movies that were paying for this insurance, and monitor them meaning every day a production report, cost report were generated, what they call a hot cost, so we could see if they stayed on budget or moved over. They were very, very, very closely monitored. And there was a large accounting department that monitored all these costs. They were never run amok unless there was a little thing they were trying to hide or something. It was very closely monitored. And every day I would, by the way, back then on paper, there was no digital, nothing. Everything was on paper. We'd get the production reports sent to us, which showed how many pages they shot, if they did what they had scheduled to do, if they were dropping something or picking it up, if there was rain, if an actor was sick, every single piece of information. It was a really airtight document, and they still use production reports now. They're just digital, that the completion bond company would use to make sure that everything was right on track. It was very important when I was on the receiving end of that, when I was a producer and producing movies every day, I'd have to sign that report that would go, in my case, it was usually to the studio, unless it was to the completion bond company when I was working for companies like New Line, Lionsgate, or those kind of companies. You would make sure that all the information was correct, because believe me, they'd call you up and go, wait a second, there's a mistake. We would have to answer to that. So one of the major things that I learned was, and this was a lesson that I carried with me during my entire career. I learned very, very early when I started to hire. My first job would be to hire the art department. Usually the director or the creator had somebody in mind, and maybe they'd give me 3 choices, or sometimes they would say to me, we have nothing, you find us everybody. When we would come down to who we were picking, my very first thing I would say to whoever we hired, no matter what department, art, hair, makeup, wardrobe, transportation, camera, grip, electric, sound, props, whatever the department was, my speech was, I'm going to tell you, the most important thing to me is that I'm the first to know, not the last. Many times I learned from experience that they would either go over your head if they were trying to manipulate something, or they didn't know better and they would say something to the creator, and the creator would say to me, why didn't you tell me? And I go, I didn't even know. They would judge me and go, how could you not know? You don't have control over your entire crew. That could fall under the case of many things. I would get a call from HR in recent years. In 2018, I get a call from HR that there was a hostile work environment in my production office. Now, once we go to camera, meaning once we start shooting the show, I probably spend months prior to the show preparing it and getting it ready and hiring everybody and getting everything ready for camera. Once we go to camera, I'm not really in the office. I'm on set all day, every day, sun up to sundown or sundown to sun up, whichever version we're shooting that day. I'm not in the office. There was a hostile work environment case. And I'm using just this as an example where the person went around me and around their supervisor to HR, and HR called me up and said, what do you know about this? And I knew nothing. So out of that example, then I went to the person and said, why didn't you tell me? They get kind of skittish and they say, well, I didn't want to upset you, or you have to upset me. I mean, that's my job. I am upset all the time. That's what I do. I take on that responsibility. And having said that, in my lifetime, I learned to say, why was I the last to know? There were many situations where the director would come to me and they would say, so and so told me about this. Right, but they didn't tell me. So I couldn't have told you. You spend a lot of time producing, really untangling large balls of yarn, trying to get ahead of stuff, even when you're already behind the stuff. It's quite a political game. It could be quite confusing if you're not on top of it all. You have to almost listen to the vibe and to the feeling of how are people doing and what are they thinking. You got to poke around and see what people hear about anything. I'm going to connect that to my life right now. I did a post telling about the state of affairs of the insurance disaster in my life, in my house. I own a home for 33 years in Los Angeles that's paid for. I spent my whole life so that I would always have a home, because when I was young, we had a hard time having a home when my dad left. This was my pride and joy. It's the most beautiful treasure of my life. It was going to be passed on to my children. A couple of years ago, 2023 to be exact, in April 10th, there was a horrendous windstorm and it ripped part of the roof off and the water was pouring through, and I called roofers to come tell me what it would cost. And 5 roofers told me, you need to call your insurance company because your house is flooding here. I didn't think of that. So I called the insurance company, who came out and said, yeah, we're not covering this. I was like, what do you mean you're not covering this? This is okay. Well, they're not covering it. So I was confused and I spoke to a friend of mine and they said, you should talk to a lawyer. 2 lawyers later, I'm going to make this really fast. It turns out that because a mediation company came in to deal with the water, that there was asbestos in the house. Okay. I had to fire 2 lawyers who got checks for me and never did anything. I was left with this holes in my walls and roof and a lawyer who never came and never answered my calls. 6 months didn't answer my calls. He fired his assistant and I had no communication. And then when I fired lawyer number 2, he actually said to me, I am shocked. I'm shocked that you would fire me. You're shocked? I actually gave you a 3-week notice. 3 weeks, please call me by July 18th last year, 2025, and tell me what's going on, or I'm going to terminate our agreement. And he never called. But then when I terminated the agreement, he wrote, I'm shocked. I knew nothing. Well, actually, I warned you. Having been in business and producing for 40 years, I know protocol. I know what chain of command is. I know what you have to do to follow procedure. Okay. Well, that didn't work out. So I started dealing directly with the insurance company. They escalated my case up to what they call a large loss adjuster. By the way, adjuster number 14. 14. Okay. Poor girl. She's taken on everybody else's hot mess. I think everybody else quit or was fired or whatever they did, but I was on number 14. Lovely girl named Angie. The insurance company is called American Family Insurance. AFICS. American Family Insurance Claim Services. Okay, that's their formal name. They're located in Wisconsin. At one point, they were owned by Costco. I guess now they've changed. They're not owned by Costco anymore. And in the summer of 24, they found asbestos, massive amounts of asbestos in my house, while lawyer number 2 was involved. And they all agreed that it had to be this procedure called a P5, which is a procedure 5, which means the entire house, my giant house, had to be gutted to the studs. Everything I owned, pretty much, thrown in the garbage. Appliances, clothes, things that were not cleanable is how they explained it to me. In the summer of 25, after I fired lawyer number 2, American Family Insurance hired a company called P.W. Stevens to come and asbestos abate my house, which meant my house was gone. And I've shown pictures of this on other sites. And the house was gutted to the studs. They took out the plumbing, the electric, the water, the floors, the light switches. there's nothing left in the house. It's not livable. It is not even squattable. It's so gutted. There's no air conditioning, no vents, no power, no nothing. They approved it in writing. We approve the abatement. Okay. The abatement started. I moved out in October. The abatement started at the beginning of November, and I was cordoned off. They covered all the windows and doors so you couldn't look in and see what they were doing. And then they were finished in February, and they sent out a final bill for their work and services and sent it to insurance. And February, March, April, P.W. Stevens never got paid. That abatement company never got paid. And as a lovely, lovely gift to me, they put a $147,000 lien on my house last week. Isn't that nice? Lovely that I am being held responsible for what American Family Insurance Claim Services approved. Now, we've tried to call them, and all they say is, oh, it's at managerial level. Okay, I've called managerial. I've called everybody. Nobody's answering. So here's what I'm doing now. I looked up today the CFO of this American Family Insurance. His name is Bill Weststreet. He's located in Wisconsin. So if anybody out there knows the CFO of this company or CEO or whatever his fancy title is, plays golf with him, lives near him, knows him, I need to talk to him. Okay, because I'm following the chain of command. I've gone up through every single one of his minions and have gotten nowhere. I am without my home. The scarier part is that they did pay out some money, and now they're going, well, you did pay out some money. We're just spending it. It doesn't matter anymore. I did spend it. I fixed the roof. I fixed the windows and doors, which were completely destroyed. And by the way, they're still sitting in the dirt at my house. I've done exactly what you told me to do, was start to fix my house, but then they found the asbestos, so all the work that I did got ripped out, except for the windows and doors. There's no movement. And I submitted a bid to rebuild my house. I just want my house back. I didn't want to go find another lawyer and sue them now at this point for bad faith. I also contacted the California Department of Insurance. Following the chain of command, I filed a complaint with the Department of California Insurance. I have done everything under my power. Now I'm at the studio executive level because I can't do this anymore. I will not lose my house over this, because the bigger threat to me, as somebody who's not young, who has 2 children, who has a senior mother who comes and stays with her, I am in danger of losing this temporary housing that they put me in. They did. Isn't that nice? They did actually pay for me to go stay somewhere else while they destroyed my house. Nice. It's like a gift basket. But the money is running out. And according to the law, they have the right to say, bye-bye, you're on your own. You're going to be in the street. I am not quite sure how to deal with this. I am reaching out to the world to say, chain of command, anybody know anybody at American Family Insurance Claim Services, AFICS, who is at the high-level executive level. Maybe you have a boat near his or a house near his. You know what I'd love to know? Does he use his own disgusting insurance company to insure his home? Because my guess is that he's probably a bright, educated man, Bill Weststreet, and he doesn't use his own company. That's my guess, okay? It's fascinating to me that they have truly abandoned me. Like I say, had I not gone through the proper channels, I probably wouldn't know what to do. But it was my incredible mother who said, you know what? You need to reach out to the CEO of this fine company and maybe get some attention. I'm looking for attention right now, here, because I followed the chain of command. When I work at the studio, if I just went to, the head of television when I had a problem, they'd go back to my executive in charge of the production or my showrunner. They'd go like through 4 people, but I went through 4 people. This is an emergency. This is an urgent crisis. I will not lose my home that I worked my whole life for and set up for my children to have when I was, which at this point is driving me to an early grave at this point. They're really, I don't feel well anymore from what they have done to me. I am sick. I have stomach pains. I don't sleep at night from what they have done. I am petrified and I need help, and I am not afraid to ask for it. So the way I run my life is like a production. So at this point, I have done everything and followed the chain of command and written letters and wrote to the California State Insurance Department and actually got a respond. But now I'm hearing that they're not going to do anything. The lien on my house is slanderous. It will hurt my credit. It will hurt my reputation. Me, who doesn't even have a credit card. Now I have a $147,000 lien on my home, on my life. I actually see it as like on my life. This may sound dramatic, but I am broken and I am desperate. And I'm going to produce a winning situation out of this because I'm not going to stop screaming from the rooftop until this gets resolved. When you're on a production and you produce for a living, I promise you, there is always a resolution. You may not like the resolution. You may disagree with the resolution, but there's going to be a resolution because they approved this demolition and they destroyed my home and it is not livable. It's almost not even, you can't even walk in there. It's about 100 degrees and it's filthy and it's dark and it's dirty and there's spiders and rats. It's disgusting. And that's what American Family Insurance Claims Services did to my home. And P.W. Stevens is their partner in crime. Why didn't you go after the insurance company? Oh, let me think, because they're not the little guy. You went after me, the little guy. You're disgusting, both of you. I need attention for this matter because I am not done. I just started screaming about this. So if you have the opportunity or want to understand how Hollywood works, that's how it works. There is a chain of command, and I must be the first to know, not the last. And by the way, the executives that I work for say the same thing. They need to be the first to know. Sometimes you'll go to them and they'll say, why didn't you come to me sooner? You're taking it on and you're trying to resolve something. A lot of things just start out as something little, but mushroom cloud at every layer. And so my mushroom cloud is nuclear at this point because it's destroying a piece of my soul and my heart and my home. My children are heartbroken over this, watching their mother go through this. And it's very important. So the lessons that I learned in Hollywood really apply to this time in my life that I am so broken over. So Mr. Bill Westrate and P.W. Stevens, you need to turn this thing around and show good faith, because at this point you have truly, truly bad faithed me all the way to this point. And I never, ever, ever knew or understood what social media could do before. But now I've learned. And you know what? I got nothing to lose. I have nothing to lose. It's gone. It lost. Although my mother does love to point out that I got a nice piece of property with a pool on it. And a fence. And all my shit in a box. In a pod in my driveway. And that's what I have left. And I'm in a rental house. But I don't know. Can I stay in the rental house? I wrote them today and said, please clarify that you're not going to throw me in the street while you're at managerial approval levels for continued housing. Nothing makes sense. Nothing I did I deserve this, because I am a good, kind person and I would never, ever hurt anybody the way I have been shaken right out of my shoes. So I hope you enjoyed my Hollywood lessons I learned as a producer of 40 years, because I love to share and I love to teach things that helped me, things that are helping me now. Find your voice and use it, because it works. When you speak up, Just speak up. Find your voice before it gets to this point, because I am really, really mad and sad and scared and broken and taken advantage of at this point, and I've only just begun. I've sat back, and my daughter said yesterday, "You need to fight harder." Okay, I'll listen to my son and my daughter. I'll listen. I am fighting now because I am not going to lose anything to American Family Insurance Claim Services or Westgate. Maybe I'll come move in with you. Got any room? Because I'm looking for a new place to live at this point. Will you pay for that? Got any extra space in your big house? My name is Carrie Morrow. I am grateful for everything that social media has done for me and given me and taught me. And now I'm using it because I've been in school, social media school, learning for a year. And here I am. Please like, follow, listen, subscribe, and please comment if you have any information of what I should do, because 2 lawyers later and public adjuster consultations, nothing's happened. I need the lien removed. I need my house restored, period, to the gorgeous, gorgeous home that it was. It was gorgeous. Some bomb cyclone on April of 2023 started this, not me. I wasn't looking for anything. Actually, my home had just been remodeled a couple of years ago, so I wasn't looking for a remodel of my remodel. I was good. And now I'm not. Please, Spotify, Apple, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, I post every day on all of these platforms. You'll hear my voice, you'll hear my prayers, you'll hear my cries, and you'll hear my advice. Producing for 40 years gave me some insight, and I'm happy to share it with anybody who wants to know how I got here, what I did, the accidental producer. But I'm not finished. I've only just begun. Thank you for coming to my podcast. This is What the Heck Next. I really am grateful because great things happen when you shoot the puck, and I'm shooting my shot right now.